Hi everyone, this video will be my first in a series about economics for beginners. I'll be making a few videos about this topic, which will talk about the very basics of economics. So let's begin. The biggest thing you must know about economics is that economics originates from scarcity. Scarcity is the foundation of economics. Scarcity is a state of being in short supply or shortage of. Economics is a state of scarcity of goods and services. It's a study of how people use resources to produce goods and services. It's a study of the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. Economics is also the study of decision making, because the scarcity of resources causes people to have to make decisions on how to effectively use limited resources to produce these goods and services. Scarcity also causes people to make decisions on how to distribute these same goods and services to meet the demand. Scarcity of resources leads to decision making on how to effectively use resources for production, distribution, and consumption. This is why scarcity is the foundation of economics. We talked a lot about scarcity, so now let's just make sure that we really understand it. Scarcity occurs because people want goods and services, but there is not enough of these resources to meet demand, hence why these goods are scarce. There's also a saying, too much is never enough, meaning that it's in human nature to always want more. So let's continue on with some basic information that you will need to know in order to understand economics. Adam Smith is considered the father of economics. He created several economic theories, but is most famous for writing the popular book, The Wealth of Nations. Humans have unlimited wants in a world of limited supply. Take a minute to think about your own life. You probably want a smartphone, a laptop, a pair of limited edition shoes, AirPods, or something else. Now imagine if every person in the world wanted that. These resources are scarce, as there aren't enough resources to be able to give one of this item to every single person. And this is where economics becomes involved. It is a study of how to use resources efficiently to be able to create as much supply as possible. Productivity and efficiency are critical in economics. Productivity is the effectiveness of an effort. There's two ways to increase productivity, either decreasing the input for the same output, or increasing the input to make an even greater output. For example, you may spend 1 hour on your math homework to complete 20 problems. You could increase productivity by spending 45 minutes to complete 20 problems, or by spending 2 hours to complete 100 problems. There are three factors that are required to produce goods and services: human capital, also known as labor, raw materials, and capital, also known as money. Supply and demand is an essential part of economics. Supply is the amount of goods or services that are available. Demand is the amount of goods or services that consumers are able to purchase. When supply is higher than demand, prices are lower. When demand is higher than supply, prices are higher. Often people draw a graph to show supply and demand. An example of a graph is what you see on the right now. As you can see, as supply increases, typically the demand of the product decreases, as there's more of this product to satisfy the customers. As supply vanishes, there's more and more demand for the product, and there's less of the product available. For perspective, a video game store may have 100 copies of your favorite limited edition video game. However, 1,000 customers want copies of this video game. Since demand is higher than supply, the price is higher. There are more customers than copies of the video game. Since people will be willing to pay more for this video game, the price is higher. Now let's say at the same store, there's an older version of this copy. There's only 10 customers. The demand is less than the supply, so the price is lower because nobody wants the product at this price. Lowering the price could help to increase demand, so the stores will be able to sell all of its supply. The point where supply meets demand is known as the point of equilibrium. There are two different types of economics: Macroeconomics and microeconomics. Macroeconomics is the study of the economy on a national and international level. Microeconomics is the study of how individual companies and consumers make their decisions. So now I'll discuss some main economic questions. Many economic ideas can be answered by these questions. There are 5 main questions that can address many economic ideas. Take a minute and pause the video to try to understand these questions and see if you can even develop an answer for them. So each of these questions have a lengthy answer, so I'll be covering them in a future video, so make sure you stay tuned for that. In fact, make sure to subscribe to this video right now so you know when the video drops. So now we'll shift gears a little bit and talk about marginal costing. Marginal costing is a study of incremental costs related to incremental benefits. Marginal costing is the change in the total cost that occurs when the quantity produced is incremented by 1. In other words, marginal costing is the cost of producing an additional 1 unit of a good or service. For example, it may cost a company $5 to make 1 box of cereal. It may cost the same company $6, but to make 2 boxes of cereal. So the marginal cost in this example is $1. So now we're going to shift gears again, and this time we're going to talk a little bit about economic theories. Economic theories are the collection of positive statements and analysis of economic data. So there are many different economic theories. So these theories can become outdated every 100 or so years. They can become outdated because of the changing economic times that we live in. Some theories, they may no longer be relevant or effective anymore. One of the most popular economic theories that was ever written was by Adam Smith, the father of economics. His theory was that free markets can regulate themselves through supply and demand, competition, and self-interest. In other words, the economy will be able to control itself, as there will be multiple people selling the same items in the economy, changing supply and demand, and because people act in their own self-interest. Remember, economic theories are the collection of positive statements and the analysis of economic data. So now, what are positive statements? Well, there are 2 different types of statements that make theories: positive statements and normative statements. Positive statements are economic statements that can be verified as true or false through real-world data. Normative statements are economic statements that are based on personal opinions. Remember, only positive statements can be used in the creation of economic theories. So positive statements are based on real-world data. These statements are either true or false. These statements are also based on real-world factors. These real-world factors are observed through observation and measurement, also known as O&M. Positive statements will often state the issue, but won't give an opinion about what should be done or followed. For example, COVID-19 is leading to a high unemployment rate. This is a statement that is based on the high unemployment rate, which is a real-world data. This statement does not give any personal opinion or advice on what to do. It just simply uses a real-world data, unemployment rate. On the other hand, normative statements are economic statements that are based on personal opinions. These opinions focus on economic fairness. They also focus on what people personally believe the economy should be or ought to be. An example of a statement would be, COVID-19 is causing a high unemployment rate, so the government should give money to the people to be able to spend money. Now, before we get into the next slide, you're probably wondering what is the purpose of positive and normative statements. Positive statements are used in the creation of economic theories, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes. Normative statements are not used in the creation of economic theories. You can turn positive statements into normative statements simply by just giving your own opinion about what the economy should be or ought to be. So earlier I mentioned observation and measurement, or O&M, and that it helps you create positive statements as it helps to gather the data, which will help develop these statements. Observation and measurement are real-world factors determined through observing and measuring. O&M focuses on essential data only. There's two types of data, qualitative and quantitative data. O&M solely focuses on the essential quantitative data. Qualitative data is all about quality. For example, if you were describing a pizza using qualitative data, you could say it has a brown crust, triangular shape, red sauce, and white cheese. On the other hand, quantitative data is all about quantity. You may say that a pizza has 8 slices, or is 12 inches in diameter. However, if I were discussing the size of a pizza, while knowing that a pizza has 2 tablespoons of sauce per slice, it is not essential to know this quantitative data from my statement. In this example, essential quantitative data may be that a pizza is 12 inches in diameter and has an area of about 100 square inches. So, O&M only focuses on the essential quantitative data. So now what do economics do? So economics is a social science. Like other sciences, they are occupations whose responsibility it is to create theories. In chemistry, chemists create theories. In physics, physicists create theories. In biology, biologists create theories. In economics, the economists create theories. Like all scientists, they follow a procedure to help them create a theory. In economics follow this 3-step procedure. The first step is observation and measurement, O&M, which is needed to get the real-world factors for positive statements. The second step is building a model, which only considers the essential data. Finally, the last step is testing the theory. Like all scientists, economists test their theory to see if their outcome matches their prediction. If it does not match their prediction, they will have to restart the process. So this topic was covered very briefly, but I may be mentioning this topic more in depth in another video. So if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to know when the video drops. So lastly, let's talk about some assumptions. So often, people tend to change multiple factors at a time when trying to make a theory. When creating a theory, it is important that you only change one thing at a time. You may have done some experiments in science class in school. So teachers make a point that it is important to only change one thing to be able to know what variable had an impact on the outcome of the experiment. Similarly, in economics, you can only change one variable at a time. There's a Latin term which helps address this issue, ceteris paribus, which means other things equal. It means that everything but one thing should be the same when creating a model for your theory. So that will take us to the end of our lesson. So this was an extremely basic lesson in economics. You probably have some more questions about economics as well. So I'll be posting a lot more videos in this series, so stay tuned for more videos. In fact, my next video will be the second part in this series about economics for beginners, which will cover fallacies and opportunity cost. So make sure to like and subscribe to know when the video drops. Thank you for joining me today.